Good morning, good afternoon, and konbanwa wherever you are in the world. I'm the idol to give you the wings to fly, Cyber Angel, Rita Kamishiro at your service. And how is everyone doing today? How's the volume? Volume all goob. Welcome in, Theo. Welcome in, Dadaku, Lauren, Chris, Mercurian, Ren, It's Hip, Mordred, TND, Advent, Absolute Link, Nara, Cubey, Ren, Shiny, Xgrad. Welcome, welcome! You're chilling but busy? Oh, I feel you. This stream is like my reprieve in my very, very busy day. So thank you all for being here and keeping me company while I de-stress a bit before I jump right back into the grind. Oh gosh. See, the nice thing is about vacation is like a weekend where I just get to relax and have fun with my friends. Much needed, by the way. I've been very busy, so very important time to relax. But then it's like immediately when you go back, it's so busy. Volume Goob, nice, hi Twy! Thank you. Wait, was it your raid earlier? I saw you in the chat. I saw some raiders. It was. Thank you for the raid. What were you doing? What were you up to? How's it going? Oh my gosh. My weekend, but my weekend was very much relaxing and I very much needed it. I don't know, I feel like it's nice to have a big break every once in a while. I feel like I haven't been on vacation in a hot minute, so I don't know, it was very relaxing, which I'll talk more about it. I was really excited to talk about some of the things that I talked about with my friends this weekend. With you all for this cozy little chatting hour. I figured that'd be nice since not only do I have a lot of idle side job stuff to get caught up on since I was away for the weekend, but I also have some fun projects. In fact, I actually have to record after this stream, so this stream might be short, but you all know how I am. Honestly, it'll probably end up being my hunger that gets to me. I didn't snack as much as I usually do today, so yeah, I gotta make sure I eat and then get my recordings done. So yeah, I'm recording for another secret project. I say another because I've teased a lot of like secret projects and stuff. Yeah, it's another one. It's a new one, entirely different from what I've mentioned before. But yeah, just been chilling. Nice, nice. Staying hydrated. Oh, that's so important. Yeah, for real. You can only handle 1 or 2 weeks of vacation from work. Yeah, that's true. Like, vacation is important, but I feel like if I'm not doing anything for too long, then I start to get antsy. So, but yeah, it was like relaxing fun. So, yeah, I mean, just like Mr. Grimheart said, I might overwork myself if I don't, you know, relax. So it's very important to my well-being as a workaholic that I take regular breaks. I've actually been, I say tangent, but there is an overall theme to today's talk, but I didn't like make an outline or anything. I figured we can kind of just do stream of consciousness, and my consciousness is a very busy, tumultuous stream. So, but yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about the things that we talked about, me and my friends talked about this weekend. But yeah, I think it was very much needed this break. And now I jump right back into the grind. You also got your other job to do an hour? No! Yeah, no, honestly, after I chat for a bit, I'm gonna eat some dinner whenever I get hungry. And then I gotta record. And then I gotta do some idle side job stuff. But again, the vacation was so worth it. I needed the weekend with my besties. Any other secret projects we should know about? Meow. For real. Oh my gosh. Your semester has officially begun and there's finally a class solely for video game music and sound. That's so cool. For those who missed the announcement, it's a good announcement. I'm also going back to school in the fall. And so my schedule is gonna look a little different. Well, honestly, like, in the grand scheme of things, I don't expect it to look too much different. But yeah, you kind of have an expectation on what I'll probably be streaming. Of course, things will come up. Maybe I'll have like a recital or something and I'll need to move like a Friday or a Saturday. Whatever the case may be, you know, we'll stay flexible. We'll work with whatever works. But for the most part, it'll be like Tuesday nights, Friday nights, and then sometime on the weekend. And of course, you know, I have my member streams outside of that. But you get the idea. And then whenever like things clear up and, you know, I have a little bit more, maybe like around breaks and things like that, I can stream a bit more just so I can get more fun in my system. Oh my gosh. But yeah. Joshua says if I play Genshin in the next patch, oh my gosh. So I've been so Honkai Star Rail like coded for I don't know when it started. I think it honestly started with Amphorius because something about this world is so like and again maybe that's the Xenoblade fan in me, but I love the world and I love the storyline so far of Amphorius, and I feel like that's just really sucked me in. And I actually played a lot of Honkai this weekend because Thursday, Friday we just did like work from home sessions. So we found like a couple of cafes and we basically spent the whole day like at a cafe working. I think Thursday we went on a walk. Yeah, we like went out and had a little, that's kind of where our sort of conversation started, because these conversations lasted throughout the entire weekend. But yeah, it kind of started on Thursday with our like walk. We went to the park and we had a nice walk after work, and we'll dive more again into the conversations we had. But that was Thursday. Friday again, we had some more work from home sessions. But there was a restaurant one of my friends wanted to go to, so we checked that out. And then Friday, we also continued watching We also finished Apothecary Diaries this weekend. I'm telling you, this weekend was literally just like anime, video games, chillin'. It was great. So Friday night, we checked out the restaurant my friend wanted to check out. And then we started our Apothecary Diaries marathon. We didn't start the show. We just started our marathon. We were like a few episodes in. Because, by the way, this is my weekly anime night, girls. We don't get to see each other very often, so we try to do like a once-a-year thing. You know, just to see each other. And I told the girls that I was going to be busy this fall. You know, going back to school. So, you know, they were like, yeah, let's try to squeeze it in before the end of summer. So thankful that we found a time to do that. But yes, Friday night was anime night, and then so was Saturday. We basically finished all of Apothecary Diaries, so that was really cool. It was fun seeing my friends' reactions to it, because I've seen Apothecary Diaries already. But I love a good rewatch with some friends, so that was that. And then Sunday, we did like so much nothing. It was so good. And that's the day I played most of my Honkai Star Rail. And it was nice. It was just a nice, relaxing. It wasn't like too chaotic. We weren't like, we have to pack our schedule and do this and this and that. But it was more like, okay, whatever we feel like doing, we'll just do it, you know? Yeah. Yeah, it was so nice. And like, it's just so nice because I think we're all like different flavors of neurodivergent. And so it's nice like not having to like pretend to have energy for something, or like I can go nonverbal for a whole afternoon. Oh my gosh. It's funny because I'll go from like yapping nonstop, and then when I hit a certain point, I'm like, okay, I need to stop talking. That's so real, right? Oh my gosh. How do I spell that show's name? Apothecary Diaries. I know, I talk quickly. Sorry, that's a quirk of mine, if you will. Oh my goodness. We absolutely did have floor time. It was so fun. Oh my gosh. Did I use the power of friendship? We truly did. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today, because we had a lot of really good conversations, not just about like friendship, but also like life satisfaction, I guess. Oh my gosh. So Thursday, so we're at the cafe, right? I don't know how the conversation started, like us talking about life and things like that, but it was like Thursday. I'm not gonna get into the details, but Sleepy, you know, the nicknames Beef and Sleepy, those are my two friends. Well, I have more friends, but in the anime night girlies, it's Beef and Sleepy. And so Sleepy was like, hey, can I like tell you guys something? And we were like, oh my gosh, what could it be? Because Sleepy's the kind of person where, so like me and Beef are yappers. We're very different yappers, like very different people, I guess, but we're yappers, for the most part. And Sleepy is a little bit more like introverted. Of course, like, you know, she's silly and goofy with us, but whenever Sleepy says something like, hey, I gotta tell you guys something, then that's you're sat. You sit down, because every time she has like a story or an anecdote, it's like the biggest thing ever. And so Thursday, she just dropped like a whole bunch of like family lore. You know how it is. If you unlock a certain chapter of like your friendship and it's like, oh my gosh, I thought I knew everything about you. But she started off Thursday with this huge lore dump, and it practically took a bunch of like our work from home session. Yeah, literally, Sleepy says, I have an announcement and you're sad. And by the end of it, because again, I'm not going to dive into the details, by the end of it, we were kind of just like, wow. It really puts things into perspective. It's nothing like crazy. Thankfully, like nothing, no emergencies or whatever. But I think that's what really kicked off our conversations of life satisfaction and surrounding yourself with friends. Because I think Sleepy talking about her stuff kind of had all of us talking about our stuff. Like, oh my gosh, yeah, no, this is something else that I'm going through, or this is something my family's going through. And so after Sleepy, then Beef went, and then Beef was talking about stuff like that was going on with her like circle, and I shared like my piece. And I guess the first part of the conversation that I'll talk about is like friendship, I guess, because one of the conversations we have was like one of us knew somebody who surrounds themselves with a lot of like yes men, I guess, like people who say like, who are constantly like validating everything that they have to say, and like all have the same, not the same exact, of course, because you can't really do that, but all very similar walks of life and all very similar perspective. And of course, it's like you want to surround yourself with people who have similar interests, like maybe if you go to school, people who have the same major, right? Things like that. But like the only people they ever really talked to were like sycophantic, always kind of egging them on to do things, or, not really looking out for their best interests and things like that. And I feel like we all kind of go through a phase in our life where we're kind of just like, okay, I want to figure out who I want to surround myself with. These people seem fun. And then maybe after a while, it's like, oh, okay, maybe our life paths take us in different ways, and that's fine. Or like maybe these people, don't have my best interest at heart, things like that. But it was just really sad because, they were like, oh, I don't really feel like I want to find any other sort of like circle, I guess. But I don't know, it just made me think about how grateful I am to have found, because everyone's on their own journey, right, in finding friendships and things like that. Everyone's journey is different. Should never feel ashamed for being in a certain spot in your life, right? Especially if you're like wanting to change, right? Right, like, everyone has different circumstances and different starting points, but as long as you have a mindset of growth and change and wanting better for yourself and maybe for others, then that's what really matters, right? So yeah, I guess I'm grateful for the fact that I have like friends who are, I guess, open-minded in that regard. Like, we get along, but also they aren't just like yes men, if that makes sense. So this is gonna be a lot of tangential conversation and things like that, because I'm like remembering the various things we talked about as they come up. Because again, we're all like different flavors of neurodivergent, I feel. So I feel like we like airdrop thoughts to each other. It's really funny. I feel like whenever the three of us as a group talk to like other groups, I feel like we kind of confuse people because like, and I guess maybe that comes with being friends for a long time. We kind of like airdrop thoughts to each other. Somehow, I don't know how to explain it. It's not even just like nonverbal communication where we're like giving each other like looks or whatever. We can almost predict what the other person's gonna say sometimes. And so like in our heads it makes sense, but like if we're having a conversation with other people, then it's like, what are they saying? Oh my gosh. Yeah, we airdrop thoughts into one another's head. Yeah. Exactly. It's like part of it is like inside jokes, but another part of it is just like I have a feel like I know where you're going. But yeah, and I don't know. We've had all these conversations of like friendship and life satisfaction, and of course, me being the resident gamer of the Anime Girlies group, I constantly kept going like, they talk about that in Xenoblade, or like they talk about that in Honkai Star Rail, and it just kind of made me realize that there's a lot of lessons you can learn from JRPGs about friendship and about life satisfaction. And I don't know where, I don't have like an outline or anything, but I figured, we can kind of bounce off of each other about it. I guess I'll start here. I'll give you one sort of like tidbit, one nugget of thinking of mine. I feel like with JRPG parties, you really understand that, like, it's really important to have people who are in different parts of their journey. Like, well, rather, it doesn't really matter where everyone else is in their journey, right? As long as, like, you have, I don't know, it's like you're willing to support one another, or you're willing to, like, root for each other and, understand that everyone's in their own journey, right? But yeah, like some people might be like starting things over or starting something new, or like maybe someone's found their thing and that's what they want to do for the rest of their life, and they're satisfied with being like a certain way. But it's like we all have a goal, right? And I guess in the case of it being in real life, it's like friendship, right? Friendship and growing old with people. But like, I don't know, I feel like the power of being in a group like that is that we all have different experiences, different like knowledge sets, different skills, things like that. Because it's like, if you were in a friend group with a bunch of people who are exactly like you, I feel like there's not really much learning you can do, right? If you had a JRPG party of all attackers, I mean, if one person gets a hit, you're done. I mean, obviously, in gameplay, they could work out a little different, where you could like maybe make your attackers super duper strong so that the battle goes by super quickly. But you know what I mean. Like the overall message is there. Exactly, just like Shiny said, you have to have your defender types too, right? And like, yeah, and it's like, yeah, maybe one person's not as good at something, like an attacker's not good at healing, right? But they're not supposed to be, right? And you can appreciate one another's like differences, and you can be there for one another, and yeah. To be fair, I feel like I have built some teams that are like very healer heavy or defender heavy, and I'm just like, you know what? If we don't die, it's just a matter of who dies first, me or the enemy. But if you think about it more in like a general aspect when it comes to JRPGs, generally you'd like to have a mix of people, right? Yeah. Exactly. That's the neat thing about having friends, is that, again, like, I feel like, feeling good about friendship aside, like all the feel-good stuff aside, if you think about it from a more like practical standpoint, and I'm saying this not because it's, the emotional part of friendship isn't important, but, everyone sort of views things in different ways, has a different perspective on things, so maybe this'll appeal more to some folks, right? Putting aside all of the emotional stuff, like, having people that you can, like, I don't know, rely on, I guess, but I feel like at the end of the day, like, no person can do things best on their own. You know what I mean? Like, things take a village. And I feel like getting through life is just easier in a practical sense when you have people who are willing to, like, root for you, or, have your back when you're down, things like that. And again, it's like, at the end of the day, that's true. And it's not like thinking about it in that aspect doesn't make it like, oh, you're just thinking about what benefits you. But truly, like, we as people are social animals, right? And that's not saying everyone's an extrovert, everyone's an introvert. That's not the case, but I feel like we as people generally can, benefit from don't know, having a group, a community to lean on, right? Yeah. It takes a village. Yeah. Yeah, if you can get help, take it, for sure. Because I feel like there's definitely some parts of my life where I'm like, okay, this aspect I can definitely go it alone. You know what I mean? But, I don't know, having people there to not just, like, be there for emotional support, right? Listen to you, or maybe, like, help you solve problems or whatever. But, I don't know, it's like people there to, like, cover a shift if you miss something, or like give you the homework if you missed it. Like, oh, I don't know what the assignment is. Like, can you tell me what it is? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I feel like there's definitely lots of benefits to not just like friendship, but community, you know? Yeah. Aside from all of the emotional stuff. For sure, for sure. So yeah, in that regard, I feel like it's very much like, I was like, oh my gosh, like, I was telling a Beef and Sleepy, I was like, we're like a party, we're like a JRPG party. Because how I think of it, I think Beef is definitely our attacker, for sure. Like, she will, like, get stuff done. She will attack. And I mean that in the best way possible. And then between me and Sleepy, I think I had a JRPG themed birthday, and I gave myself the Defender class, so I feel like Sleepy would be a good healer, for sure. But yeah, we're all very different. In the way that we, like, live life, too. In the way that we find life satisfaction. You know what I mean? And I feel like being able to understand that and also have friends and confidants who understand that, too, is really important for, like, I don't know, mental fortitude. Because I feel like no matter what, right? Like, if you decide to stick to a mold or you decide to break the mold, whatever the case may be, there's always going to be a nagging voice in your head, right? That might be like, oh, you should have just stuck to the mold, or oh, you should have went and followed your dreams, things like that, right? But, you know, at the end of the day, you know yourself best. But sometimes, like, that nagging voice can really get to you, you know, irrational thoughts and things like that. But I feel like having friends who have different goals in life, like, I don't know, lifestyles, I guess, I don't know. It's validating hearing from people like, oh yeah, I'm also someone chasing their dreams and it's okay. And you know, I'm here for you. Or like having someone who's like, you know, I'm very much a stick to the mold kind of person and that's what makes me happy. But I also like admire what you're doing and I think that's really cool. And I'm here to like, I'm also here to support you as well. But yeah. Discomfort is the core of change, for sure. For sure. Togetherness strengthens everyone and makes the word bond more meaningful. For sure! And like, moving away from, well, before we move away from the whole life satisfaction aspect of friendship, I want to know what your thoughts. If you have things that like you're worried about or like things that you're struggling with in terms of finding, again, I'm just a girl on the internet, not a professional by any means, but a girl on the internet who is willing to give a friendly piece of advice. Of course, that you should take with a grain of salt because I don't know your life story, but I'm happy to share some of my experiences. Before we move on to the other thing about friendship that I wanted to talk about, which again, we was kind of talked about in other sort of like, I don't know, Xenoblade streams probably we've talked about. We definitely have. But yeah, before I move on to a different topic, I want to know your thoughts. Yeah, that's the best part about, you know, being a streamer is that I get to hear about what you guys think. You do have some questions to pose. You've been studying stuff around this topic and feelings of worthlessness for a while. So I wonder how you consider the relationship between friendship and worth. Yeah, I'm actually going to broaden it a little bit to relationships and worth. Relationships in general, because I feel like more so than friendship, society, we live in a society. I feel like our society in general tends to value romantic relationships more over friendship and put a lot of quote-unquote worth into that. And I think it's because, like, I think in a lot of, like, cultures, the prescribed life path is, right, you like, you know, go to school, you get a job that pays well, and then you find a partner, you settle down and have a family or whatever, and that's supposed to be the key to success, right? And for some people that is, right? But for whatever reason, I feel like growing up, everyone kind of, you know, well, I guess that makes sense. It's like you have parents who gave birth to you, so it's like you also get that sort of image from your parents. You see kind of their life path too, right? But I feel like, I don't know, I feel like from a very young age, we're all very much ingrained in our head. I say we all, in general, we tend to be ingrained with the fact that like, oh, this is what like everyone's doing, right? You don't get to see a lot of like stories in media or things like that, or commercials. Well, I guess more now so nowadays, but like when people talk a lot about like, this is the easy life, or this is the life you should want, they say you have to have like, you know, you gotta settle down and have kids or get married or whatever. And for some that is important, right? That for some that's what they're meant to do. But unfortunately that's not the case for everyone, and that's not a bad thing. So really it's just a matter of like learning to unlearn those things. And the same thing with friendship. I think a lot of people have expectations on what friendship should look like. Like, oh, we're always hanging out, we're always like, you know, going on trips and things like that, or, you know, we're all, you know, corporate baddies or something, or we're all living the dream kind of thing. But the reality is like friendship and love and work and just life in general, again, it's your life. It's literally your life. You can't live your life for anybody else, you know? So at the end of the day, whatever makes you the happiest, right? As long as you're not hurting anyone. So there you go. But I don't know. I feel like friendship and worth. I feel like a lot of people think like more friends is better, and they think like, oh, I don't have any friends, so I must be worthless, or I don't have any friends, so I must not be valuable to people. But harkening back to what I said previously, everyone's in a different path in their life, right? You know, it doesn't matter if you're going to school or, you know, starting new friendships or getting out of a marriage or starting a marriage at whatever age, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you're 60 or 70 or whatever, you know, you do you, right? Whatever you feel like is makes you happiest. And everyone has different circumstances, so can't blame yourself for that. But yeah, if you feel like, oh gosh, I don't really have any friends, I don't really have any people that I can surround myself or consider a confidant, maybe it's just that you're not in the part of your life where, you know, you feel satisfied with that part of your life. And I can hold space for if you know, if this has been a recurring pattern, and like if it's been like a long time and you feel like, oh gosh, like, you know, it feels like nothing's gonna change, because, you know, that's, I get that. Like, I get that feeling, especially when things are dragged out for a really long time. But I feel like if you give up, then you're never gonna, what's that one saying? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? But I feel like, I don't know, it's like there's always something that you can work on, right? And as long as you're not like, I'm entitled to this outcome, then it'll come to you naturally and eventually, right? Because I think I've seen a lot of people think like, oh, I haven't had like a friend that I could consider someone, you know, that is a close confidant, right? In years or whatever, I must be like unlovable or whatever. But, you know, there's always something that you can change. I don't know, like maybe it's like a social skill that needs to be worked on. Maybe there's some underlying, you know, mental barriers that are getting in the way of a healthy relationship or things like that. But yeah, then there's also like circumstances that might make it a bit more difficult for you. Like maybe you like don't have a third space to go to. Maybe you don't go to school, or maybe you don't go and work. But yeah, I mean, I feel like there's always something different, but I feel like if you expect something to happen or you expect something to stay the same, it's never gonna change. You know what I mean? like, oh, I am unlovable, so therefore I can't give it a shot. I can't try it because nothing's gonna change. But then you've sort of built this, you've kind of built your own barrier, you know what I mean? And again, I empathize with feeling that way, if that's the sort of pattern that you've seen, and I recognize it's difficult to sort of lift yourself up from that because, I don't know, I mean, not that problem specifically, but I've definitely had moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in it, you know, I'm in the thick of it, I guess. So I recognize that difficulty, but you also contribute to the environment that you sort of create, right? So if you convince yourself like, oh gosh, I can never have a friend, or I can never find a partner, or things like that, then you sort of teach yourself to behave in a way that is conducive to that. You know what I mean? I don't know. Yeah. Obviously there's things that like you can't change that might make things difficult, like the cards that you were dealt in life, right? But I don't know. Why do you cape? Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go through the chat a little bit. La la la. Yeah. Did that answer your question, Marcurian? Yeah. Therapy is the best in explaining stuff, especially this. The pain of staying the same must be more painful than the pain of change. Wait, I love that, Spider. I'm gonna jot that down to check that out. I love a good video. I love a good video essay. So I'll be sure to try to find it and add it to my list. La la la. I'm still checking. Still going back. You felt that too, but more self-loathing, like, oh, like, what do you think? Like, if you're comfortable with giving an example. But based off of what you said and sort of my experience with people that I know or people that I've interacted with personally, it's kind of that, like, oh, maybe I'm not cool enough, or like maybe, you know, people don't find me interesting. Is it that sort of thing? What do you think? Yeah. It did. Okay, I'm glad. But yeah, I don't know. What do you all think? Other questions or something like that? Thank you all for like. I love talking about stuff. Like I said, I literally spent all weekend talking about this with my friends to various capacities. So, but no, I want to know what you all think, because again, like I feel like there's so much benefit to hearing from people who, you know, have different experiences or you know, different life circumstances. Oh, again, if you're comfortable sharing, I've only lived a certain way and I can't know everything that there is to experience or feel. You feel genuinely called out for some reason? No. I'm not calling any specific person out. But if you are comfortable with sharing whatever the case may be, go for it. As long as, you know, we're maintaining a level of... I'll let you all know if things get too deep or if I just can't answer a question because I haven't had that experience or something. Mainly believing you're not capable of having a partner due to high expectations and lack of requirements to do so. Requirements as in, like... Because I feel like when I hear, like, requirements of being a partner, I think again of, like, societal expectations of what we're supposed to be in, like, a relationship. Whether that's friendship or, like, a romance, whatever. Yeah, because I feel like the quote-unquote requirements for any relationship, right, is dependent on the individuals themselves. You know what I mean? I feel like obviously there's framework for, you know, what are good boundaries generally, or how do we approach people and make friends or talk, but things like how often you're supposed to check in on someone, or how often you text or message or call, that sort of thing is you kind of feel that out. Or, you know, if you feel like it's more appropriate, you say it out loud, like, hey, like, you know, I felt sad or I felt lonely when I only get one text message from you, or whatever the case may be. So I understand that, like, you know, we all sort of grew up with certain expectations that were drilled into our head for, you know, what friendship would look like, what a relationship in general would look like. But I feel like, that's something you kind of have to unlearn. And it's like how you do that is different for everyone, right? But I get that. I get how, because I feel like I've definitely felt like that before. Yeah. No, I feel you. Like, having previous experiences that didn't work out sort of, I guess, close you off to the idea of, like, trying friendship again. You know what I mean? And that's tough. And, eventually it gets to a point where if you feel like that's not something you can overcome, right? That fear of running into something like that again, because I feel like that's eventually, something that you might want to take to, like, someone who is more equipped to talk about things like that, like unlearning traumatic events that, really close you off to, I don't know, trying friendship again, right? Exploring romance again, whatever it may be. But I don't know, like, I feel like where it matters, I feel like when you find the right people, things like appearances, skills, status won't matter. Because there are definitely people out there who only care about appearances. Want to surround themselves with people who, like, look a certain way, whatever the case may be. But I feel like, now let me think, because I just lost my train of thought. ADHD moment. I don't know. Yeah, it's tough to rekindle that. And, I think there's nothing wrong with taking a little break, being like, okay, I'm still very fresh off from that, like, friendship that I broke off. But if you're still if you or anyone else is in a similar situation, maybe you've just finished a friendship or you just wrapped up a relationship, whatever the case may be, I'm glad that if you feel like that wasn't your sort of space to be in, I'm glad that you're taking a next step to find something that is more for you, right? And that's just the way of life, right? You have to learn things and find things and try things, and sometimes, like, those things will really, really hurt. But you can't ignore them, but you can kind of recognize those negative feelings and use them to propel you forward and have them inform your path forward, I guess. If that makes sense. Yeah. But it's sad. Yeah, I've definitely, like, I mean, I think everyone kind of goes through this at some point. Not to downplay your emotion. It is very difficult to try. I believe you. Been there, done that. But I feel like, I don't think you should feel ashamed. Feeling like, oh, I don't have the right skills in socializing or what have you to be a good friend. But we all have to learn somehow, right? We all have to learn somehow. And, not everyone is socialized the same way. Not everyone is an extrovert or introvert. Not everyone has the same sort of, like, whatchamacallit, the same sort of inherent, I don't know, the same, have English is difficult. The same sort of, like, proclivity, is that the word that I'm looking for? I'm gonna pretend that's the word that I'm looking for. Define proclivity. A tendency to choose something or inclination. Yeah, sure, close enough word. Not everyone has the proclivity for pro-social, like, interactions, right? Like, not everyone has the ability to, like, do pro-social things as easily as other people. And that's okay, like, that's fine. That doesn't make you a bad person or lack of skill. What matters is that you're trying and that you're working on fixing things. You know what I mean? So I don't think you should feel like you're worthless or you're not worth as much. You know what I mean? Because again, it's like everyone's in their own path. And I don't know. Like, yeah. So, I don't know. You're just not at the certain point at where you want to be, but that doesn't make you worthless. So, and like that's the thing. That's another thing that we were talking about, like in life satisfaction. It's like I feel like you just have to understand that like you and everyone else is in their own life path, and then that's the key, right? Like, you know, you stop being so judgmental and you stop worrying about what's going on in other people's lives. You stop worrying so much about what other people are doing with theirs, right? And you save energy for your life, right? And what you're doing, what your direction is. And even if you're not where you want to be, even if you don't know where, like, how to find, you know, where your direction is, you know, at least you have energy to find your direction, or if you know what your direction is, work towards it. Or if you've already found where you want to be, you know, live your best life, right? And surrounding yourself with people who are also like that, who are, again, like, I don't know, like, not so focused on, you know, what other people are doing with their life, and not so focused on, like, meeting societal expectations. You kind of, like, I don't know. It becomes a lot less like, oh, I feel worthless, and more so, I'm just finding my own path, or I am on my own path, and I'm trying to find the point that I, you know, feel satisfied at. Yeah. Yeah, you gotta look out for yourself, and it's not always easy to have that mindset of like, I'm just gonna focus on my own thing. We all have a tendency to fall back on ways of thinking that maybe, like, irrational ways of thinking, maybe ways of thinking that you were grown up to have, right? But what matters is that, like, you can work on, you know, fixing that sort of mindset whenever it comes up. And because again, like, as much as I have these conversations with me and my friends where I'm like, oh, you just gotta focus on your own life, you know, like the various things that you hear in the world, or, you know, things that you grew up with that you know, unlearn, but they still kind of pop up in your head. It happens, right? But what matters is that, like, you can get back to that mindset of, you know, just focus on you. And I feel like having that time with my friends to just sit and be like, we're all in different places, but, you know, we either know where we want to go, or we've gotten to the point where we want to be for now, and then we're gonna, when we want to find the next thing, whatever, and then we support one another. But we don't judge one another. We're excited for one another, and, like, yeah, that's the important part. But yeah. Yeah, I'm glad. And again, like, you know, I'm glad you're feeling better, and, you know, don't feel bad if you ever feel bad, because again, I don't know, the journey to mental resilience is not linear. You don't just add tools to your mental health toolkit and then you're done and ready to go. You use those tools, right? You use those tools in your mental health toolkit, and tools need fixing and repairing, right? You come back, maybe a certain mindset or affirmation or whatever stopped working. You gotta go find a new tool to put in your toolbox. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, you're never gonna hit a point where you're like 100% happy with everything. That just doesn't exist. But I feel like life satisfaction is being able to, like, in the grand scheme of things, be able to, like, be content with your, oh my gosh, me using the definition, me using the word in my definition. I don't know. It's not about being only happy and never experiencing sadness, you know? It's just knowing how to, like, navigate around the various bumps of life. Yeah. And being able to choose the forks in the road that will, I don't know, make you happier, I guess. Gosh. Yeah, no, I totally get that, Markurian. I feel like there's definitely an aspect to it where it's like you want to show off to other people, impress them, maybe, like, show them that you're, like, doing okay. Like, even if you don't think of it in, like, a sort of, like, ooh, I want to look cool sort of way. Like, when it comes to, like, family and friends, you know, you don't, a lot of times we don't want to, like, scare them, or, like, oh, I want them to know that I'm okay. But at the end of the day, it's like people who really do care for you would be willing to, like, you know, I don't know, talk to you or root for you even when you're not, like, I don't know, at your very best. Yeah. If I may gamify that take, think of a bunch of things like side quests. You don't have to do them if you don't want to. Literally, no, we were literally talking about that. Yeah, it's literally up to you. You play the game of life how you want to. You know what I mean? If you want to take the, like, I'm gonna go get my master's and figure out what to do after that side quest. If that's what makes you happy, that's what makes you happy. If you want to do the, like, start a family and raise kids side quest, honestly, that's more of like a main quest. But again, it's like, that you do you, right? If you're more like I'm gonna skip all the side quests and just do the main quest. Again, that sort of verbiage makes it seem like you have to do, you know, the prescribed thing that society, you know, tells everyone you have to do. That's not the case. But I'm saying that, like, I mean, I guess the other thing that I mentioned is also a pretty big thing. But I know, a bunch of side quests is still a lot. You know, you could do a main quest, but I feel like a bunch of side quests is also the same amount of things. Or, you know, you could just go around exploring the map. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, those are all valid ways of playing a game. Now, hear me out. This is not some sort of, like, PvP, Fortnite thing. I'm thinking of it more in, like, Breath of the Wild, Stardew Valley sort of dealio, right? But there's no right or wrong way to enjoy the game. Even if there's, like, only, like, even if it's, like, Genshin Impact or whatever, and you play the Archon quests or whatever, you can also do a bunch of the side quests, or you don't have to. Or, you know, you can go around, explore the world, take a bunch of pictures, you know, finish a collectopedia or something. Or, well, I saw someone like, can I walk from one end of the Genshin Impact map to another? Literally, there's so many ways to enjoy a game. Why play a game the way somebody else wants you to play it? It's your game. And all of this to say, this is just one big conversation of why you shouldn't backseat. Just kidding, that was a joke. That was literally a joke. But also, let people play the games they want to play in the way they want to play them. I started in my head as I was on that tirade. It kind of made me think of that. I was like, wait, there's another lesson here. Oh my gosh, so silly. Oh my gosh, Rinji, this is a great point. Sorry, you'll have to give me a second. It's hard for me to, like, yap for a long time and then also read, so I kind of do it in chunks. Rinji says, I always watch people showing off their happiness in Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. It makes me jealous. I get that. And, like, that's not... Honestly, like, I get that. And, you know, you can say, like, oh, you know, don't compare yourself, you know, to other people, whatever. You can say that, repeat it to yourself as a mantra however you want. But, of course, there's some things that are just, like, hard to do. Especially if you, like, were raised a certain way, whatever, what have you. And again, everyone has different, I don't know, ways that their brain works, what have you. But my hack, okay, Rinji, if you can help it, delete it. And this is coming from someone who used to use, like, Instagram and, like, TikTok, all that. Delete it. It's gonna be hard at first because I used Instagram because that's how I talk to a lot of my friends. But I was like, you know what? If they really need to reach me, they can text me, you know? And then so I deleted it a long time ago, actually. And it's so nice, right? Because it's like, if you find yourself having trouble, you know, getting into that mindset, and that's okay, right? You know, everyone has a different, I don't know, way of learning how to, or unlearning things. You just gotta find what works for you. And if you feel like just repeating that mantra to yourself isn't enough to get you to that point, just delete it. Just delete it. That's okay. Just do it. That's what I did. I don't know, it's like, I think I personally deleted it more because, like, I wanted to avoid the doom scrolling. But, I don't know, I feel like there's definitely an aspect of that too, where it's like, you know, my life is so different from how people might expect it to be, you know, but I'm so happy, you know, finding my own thing and figuring things out. So, you know, there's gonna be ups and downs, but it's the ups and downs that I chose, you know what I mean? So, yeah. Yeah. Exactly. You can't argue with emotions because emotions don't think, and that's okay. You might feel bad for something you think you shouldn't, and that's valid. Absolutely. And I've mentioned this before, like, don't feel bad about an initial emotion, right? That has so many different, like, I don't know, factors to it. The people that we grew up with, what we were taught as children, maybe we need to unlearn, or like things like that. But what you can control, right, is what you do or what you say afterwards, or what you think after, right, about that emotion. It's like, oh gosh, like, you know, why did I get angry, or why did I feel sad about that? You know, is that really how I want to feel? Does that make sense? I don't know. Like, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like you shouldn't feel shame in that, right? Sorry, I'm scrolling through. Up. Yeah, you can choose side quests instead of main quests, or you can just explore the map for sure. Yep. La la la. Sorry, I'm parsing through all the messages. Yeah, kind of like backseating for sure. Meaning of life is to become legendary in your own way. I love that! Can I tangent real quickly? I was watching this documentary on ADHD, and it was about this comedian who, I think his whole life, he sort of like had this understanding like, oh, I think I might have ADHD, and he sort of like found coping mechanisms on his own to kind of like, I don't think he ever got like a diagnosis, but he had a pretty strong feeling about it. But he, you know, found ways to cope with it and like, you know, be more mindful about, you know, this and that. But over the course of the video, the documentary, what have you, learning about ADHD, eventually like, you know, looking at the neuroscience behind it, things like that. One of the things that they talked about was that people who have ADHD are often considered trailblazers because of the way that they think. And I was like, wait, that's so cool. Because I'm like, oh my God. Honkai Star Rail coded, as I said. It's like, wait, oh my gosh, I'm like a trailblazer. That's so cool. And it made me think, like, that's why I love thinking about our life experiences in the form of video games or anime or music. Because we're able to sort of pluck ourselves out of like really negative thinking, or only focusing on like, how does this, you know, make my life more difficult? Or how is this detrimental to my life? Or how does this make my life different from other people, derogatory, right? But it sort of puts it in a different mindset. Obviously not like putting you on a pedestal or things like that. Like not like, oh my gosh, like I can do anything. This is a, you know, I'm a super being, right? That's not the case. It's more like thinking of your experience more positively instead of being like, oh, ADHD makes it hard to focus on things I want to do, right? And it does, right? But I can think of it more like, oh, I'm thinking of it more positively. And of course, there's things I still need to work on, but I'm able to be kinder to myself in the process, if that makes sense. Yeah. Sorry, yeah, thinking noises while I get caught up on the chat. Oh wait, water check. I have to record in a bit. Maybe I'll chat for like another half hour, and then I'll eat, and then I'll record. So water check. Just to try it out and see if it works for you. For sure. I feel like that way, seeing other artists / creators in the field you want to be in. I used to be motivated seeing them succeed. Nowadays, I try hard to not be motivated. But recently, I just found on working my own stuff, one thing at a time, and one day I'll get to the goal I want. No, absolutely. And I feel like, obviously, you know, the message is like, at the end of the day, don't compare yourself to other people because we're all on our journeys. But I don't think we should feel bad if you ever like look at someone who like, I don't know, maybe is in a similar field and things like that, and you find yourself thinking, oh my gosh, I see that, and there's a tinge of like sadness, or oh gosh, if only I was able to succeed like that, or if only I was able to do what they could do, right? And I don't think that makes you a bad person for having that initial feeling, right? Now, where that kind of does turn into something negative, right, is if you take that initial feeling and you start having it twist your mindset and your reactions to things and how you interact with the community. Because you can take that feeling, right, that initial sort of like emotion that you feel right off the top of your head, right? You see something, you hear something, whatever, and your first instinct is like sadness, right? Or, you know, regret, whatever, what have you. But, you know, you shouldn't feel bad that you have those feelings. We're all human. It happens. But again, you can sort of craft that initial emotion into the mindset that you want to have. Like, okay, so I had that feeling, but why do I feel that way? And like Nara said, like, oh, maybe I'm just in a point in my life where, I haven't reached certain experiences yet, or I don't know, there's just so many different things that like factor into someone's life path that it just feels so unfair comparing yourself to somebody else. And again, it's easy to fall into that trap. Like I mentioned, like it's easy to kind of fall into that, like, oh gosh, like that comparing trap. Why can't I do something the same way that they do, or what have you? But you don't know their life story. You don't know what they had to go through. You don't know if they had a leg up. You don't know if they didn't. You don't know how their brain works. You don't know, whatever the case may be. Yeah. It does make me feel like I do something wrong, though. That tinge of sadness does make me feel that way. And I get it. Because we believe like, oh, good person equals positive emotion. Bad person equal negative emotion, right? That's the simple equation that I feel like a lot of times we end up doing. But I mentioned this before. I think we were doing a Persona stream, and I think Shiny linked the video. So Shiny, if you don't mind finding this video again, it was a video of a clinical psychologist who not only works with people who have sociopathic tendencies, but she herself is a sociopath. And she talked about how we often like feel like, oh, I'm a bad person because I have darkness like in my head. Like maybe an initial thought is I have like a darkness in my head. But at the end of the day, we're all human and we all have a certain level of darkness in us. And I feel like trying to suppress that or trying to ignore that just makes it worse. You know what I mean? And what you can do is, understand that darkness and learn from it, and learn to be better. I say better, and that implies that you know what I mean. Semantics aside, we all have a darkness inside of us. We're human. That's just how it is. But being ashamed of it and trying to ignore it is just gonna, make things worse. But yeah, being able to understand it, recognize it, honor it, and then being able to, change your behaviors or, adjust your mindset and be able to, like, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I highly recommend watching the video. She has a doctorate. She can explain it way better. But, yeah. Yeah, but I get that, Yeah, exactly. Like, it's not black and white. It's not just positive emotion good, negative emotion bad. Life is not that black and white. Because if you think about it, if you feel an anger towards something, if you feel a sadness towards something, if something you see in the world makes you angry or if something makes you sad, that doesn't necessarily mean you're a bad person, right? You see someone, being mean to your friend, you're not going to feel a happy emotion. You're going to feel angry. You're going to feel sad. But what you do after it is what matters, right? Maybe you like comfort your friend afterwards, like, hey, oh my gosh, like, that was so terrible. They shouldn't have. Maybe if it's in a situation where like you feel safe to do so, maybe you step in, you diffuse the situation, whatever the case may be. An example of negative emotion turning into something negative. Maybe you like punch the person. I don't know. There's just so many different ways. And I don't know. Like maybe. I don't know, and depending on the context, that might have been the good thing to do, right? Like maybe it was someone who was gonna do something terrible to everyone. Again, it's literally not that black and white, right? And same thing with a positive emotion turning into something negative, right? Like maybe you feel happy about something, but the things that you do off of that positive emotion hurt people, right? And hurt your community. It's really not that black and white. And so because I feel you though, Nara, that feeling of like, having like a negative feeling and thinking that you're a bad person for that. I get that, but I don't think that's the case. Yeah. That helped me feel better for a long time. You had a grudgeful feeling, but you finally let go of that grudge. That was another thing that me and my friends talked about, is that like you can be upset at someone or something, and you can be angry or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's like, can you do something about it? If you can, then it's like, okay, let me see like how I can do this positively, constructively, what have you, without creating more sort of like negativity or creating more problems, right? But if I can't do anything, then it's like, am I just gonna sit here and be angry, right? And have that affect my life? Because again, you shouldn't ignore how you feel about something. You should listen to yourself, listen to how you feel about something. But if those feelings, get out of control, I guess, like you let them sort of bring your life down, you kind of let it, I don't know, steer your life course a certain way that, is just full of anger and hatred, then that's getting out of hand, don't you think? I don't know. But, like, let me give an example. Like, let's say, like, someone did something mean to you and hurt you. You have every right to be angry or sad, right? But, and, you should let yourself be sad. You should let yourself be angry. Don't think like, oh, no, I'll just ignore it, what have you. But, and again, everyone is in a different journey. Everyone's path to healing is different. So it doesn't matter how long or how short you take to heal from something like that. But at the end of the day, in the long run, it's like, are you going to let that shape your life into something full of negativity where you're constantly, reflecting that negativity back to other people? Or, it's leading you to make decisions that sort of reinforce that environment? Or are you gonna, once you've taken your time to sort of sort out your feelings and how you feel about the situation, are you gonna, move on and not let your life be weighed down by, maybe by somebody else or someone else's negativity? And again, this isn't to say that it's just that easy, because it's not. It really isn't. Everyone heals differently. Things stick with you even like a long time down the road. But what you do is you find a way that allows you to continue your life as best as you can. And not everyone can do that by themselves, and that's okay, right? It doesn't mean you lack the skills, or doesn't mean that you are any less good at being a person, right? But yeah, it's like, how do you want your life to be? Do you want your life to be controlled by, negativity? Or do you want your life to be, I don't know, more constructive, more positive, where it can be? Yeah. Okay, scrolling up. Tangent! Well, not even a tangent, just rambling, Let's see. Where's the line between what you are saying with letting emotions and stuff shape you instead of solving them, where solving them tries to change someone else? Good question. Yeah. I guess that goes into the like relationship sort of aspect of it, because I think a lot of times people like go into relationships or friendships, whatever the case may be, thinking like, oh, it has to work out. You know what I mean? But it doesn't. And that's okay. Like, where the line is drawn is if you feel, and again, it's different for everyone. So you really it really is a case-by-case basis. And I feel like that's something you kind of learn, the sort of like the minutia of like where that line is specifically is different for everyone, right? You have your own boundaries and you have to be comfortable, expressing them. But I feel like any relationship is like give and take, right? But if you feel like you're the only one like putting in effort into something, or if you feel like you have to change somebody, or someone's having to try to change you in order for things to work out, like, I don't know. It's like you can't be the only one putting in energy into a relationship, if that makes sense. And I don't know. I feel like, because I feel like it's the situation we're talking about right now is a little vague. But if we're talking about like, I'm trying to think of an example, a specific example. But I don't know if you think it's like there's two people in a relationship, whatever kind of relationship, and you feel like, you know, someone's not giving as much effort into like having a relationship. And then if you try to talk to them about it, and like, you know, it just doesn't align, you know, your goals, your needs as a friend, what have you, then, you know, things end, right? But if you find yourself like constantly having to like pull your weight and constantly having to like, I don't know, change who you are fundamentally for the other person just for things to work out, then you have to evaluate like, okay, do I leave this relationship, this friendship, whatever, in order to, you know, be able to be me more comfortably? Because again, the world isn't built for any one person 100%. And that applies to like any relationship. And it's a two-way street, right? So, you know, that's the price of community. That's the price of, you know, being in relationships with people, right? Is that you sacrifice, I think I saw this tweet somewhere, you sacrifice convenience for community or something like that. But I don't know, it's just like you, like obviously, like if I think about me being a friend, then it's like, okay, well, there's obviously things that I hesitate to say sacrifice, because it's like, it's things that I'm just willing to do because, you know, I love my friends. And you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think, because honestly, because to me, it comes naturally, but I think there's definitely some things that I like, I've definitely changed, you know, but I don't think it's changing that is fundamental to like who I am as a person. It's more so like, okay, you know, like I'll accommodate you. And again, I feel like using that verbiage makes it seem like it's a burden on me, because burden has a negative connotation. But honestly, it's like, that's what friends are for. That's what relationships are, is burdening one another. But like, there's a certain amount of that is okay. And I don't know if I have enough life wisdom in me to really know. But I don't know, it's like, I feel like I've definitely had friendships before where it's like, oh, I feel so like exhausted pretending to be something I'm not, you know? Whereas the like friendships I have like now, where it's like, I can be who I am, but there's just small things that I have to change, but that's just how it is, right? You know, not everyone has the same experiences or understandings that I do. And it's like, okay, I'll make changes, right? So there's an example. And again, it's like, are you willing to make that change? If not, then you sacrifice the relationship. Sacrifice is such a strong word. But like, it's a price you have to pay. Like if you're not willing to pay that price, and again, it sounds bad, but like, that's just how it is, you know? I don't know. I'm rambling. I feel like if you feel like you're having to give up a lot of like who you are fundamentally as a person, I don't know, then like, I don't want to not be weird. Like I don't want to not be a weeb, like an anime fan or a gamer. You know, well, obviously there's some relationships in my life where it's like, I don't talk about video games to them. Like my coworkers, like at Idle Side Job, like I don't really talk to video games to them, but that's not me being untrue to myself. I just find other things to talk about. But that's the price I pay to have a good working relationship with the people that I work with. I talk about things that we're all interested in, so I don't, you know, isolate any one person, or, you know, we can all sort of share in things that we talk about. Yeah. Relationships are not a zero-sum game, but all sides need to put in the effort. Oh, real. I saw somewhere where it's like, relationships shouldn't be 50-50. It should be like 60-40, and each person involved is trying to be the 60. I thought that was really nice, but like, no, but like, you know, I forgot what I was saying before that tangent. Sorry that I did that. I did that to myself. But I don't know, it's like, you can, I don't know. I forgot what I was gonna say. Yeah, relationship shouldn't be quantified in general. It shouldn't be like a this for that, tit for tat kind of thing. But that's that general mindset. You can improve yourself without sacrificing who you are. Exactly. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think of something that and again, it depends on the level of relationship, right? Because again, with my coworkers, they're my coworkers, right? I don't have to be like, hey guys, I want you guys to know about all of my hyperfixations so that you know what I mean? Like, I don't ask that of them. But like, I still enjoy being in their company and we work well together, and like, you know, having a positive relationship is beneficial not just for them, but for me too. Again, thinking of it from a practical standpoint, it makes work easier. But also, like, they're nice. I like them. And, like, being able to get along with my coworkers is valuable, you know? And then with friendship, it's like, of course, I don't force them to play the games that I like because they're not gamers. They just don't like playing games. But I'll tell them about things that I like. And for me, they'll remember people. Oh my gosh. So another thing I did this weekend is I explained the entirety of Honkai Star Rail to Beef and Sleepy. Do I expect them to remember everything? No. But we had this joke over the weekend where, like, you know, I would be playing cutscenes or I'd be playing, like, you know, Honkai Star Rail. And I have both Sunday and Finan. And so we'd play a game of, is that Sunday or is that Finan? You know what I mean? And so, like, obviously they're not gonna become gamers just because they're friends with me. But, you know, they'll do things like, oh my gosh, that one's Finan and that one's Sunday. Right? They'll remember little things, or like they'll ask me, like, hey, how did you enjoy playing Xenoblade last week? That sort of thing. If I tell them something, they'll remember it or whatever. So, I don't know. It's like, whatever you feel is your boundary. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. I don't know. I was thinking about how I'm happy that my friends are like, you know. And the same thing with, like, for example, like with like Beef. Beef is a huge 80s fan. And like, I like K-pop, but I'm a Twice stan. Twice is my group. Twice, Stray Kids. I'm not gonna force myself to be an 80s fan. But I'm like, hey, how was that 80s concert? Or I'll remember some characters. Oh my gosh, sorry, we're switching to real people now. I'll remember some of the I'll remember the members' names. I'll listen to some of the songs that she'll talk about, but I'm not gonna force myself to be an 80s fan. It's not that we can't be friends anymore because I'm not. There's always gonna be, like, I don't know, a give or take. And expecting a friendship to be perfect, you're just setting yourself up for failure. And that was another conversation that we had, because we ended up talking about, like, you know, like being friends with, like, AI, or somebody had mentioned it earlier, like people cutting off friendships too early, or like, when do you know when to cut off a friendship, you know, if it gets to the point where you need to do that for your mental health. But a lot of people tend to cut it off early. And it's this expectation that, like, friends need to be perfect, or that, like, a relationship won't have ups and downs. Because I've definitely had downs with, like, with Beef and with Sleepy. Like, there's definitely moments where we've misunderstood each other, and, you know, we felt, you know, sad or angry or upset with one another. But that's when you work things out and you work through misunderstandings. You talk about things and then you move on from it. Like, hey, that made me feel upset, or hey, when you said that, this is what I felt, or this is how I interpreted it. You know what I mean? And it's like, if you feel, and again, it's like, do you want to cut off that friendship early on, you know, because things got, like, a little bit tough? And that's you know, your prerogative, but it's like, you're sacrificing something for something else, right? I don't know. Yeah. Da-da-da-dum. Sorry, you're getting caught up on the chat. Time to learn the lore. Honestly, it's so fun. Like, lore dumping to your friends. Mm-hmm. You have great friends. It's really great to have people who respect your taste and try to, like, get it. That's true. And what a lot of people don't see like maybe someone will look at me and be like, wow, she has a really good friend group. I can't help but feel sad that I don't have something like that. Or like, you know, again, comparing happens, you know, it comes very naturally, unfortunately, to us all, right? But, you know, you don't think about like, oh, I also had, you know, a lot of tumultuous like friendships as well, where I had to draw the line like, hey, this was very disrespectful, and if that's not something you're willing to like, you know, learn or respect, then we can't be friends anymore. And that's just life, and everyone is probably at a different point in their life where they're still maybe kind of working through like, oh, like still trying to figure out the people that will respect that, right? Or maybe you got out of like a years-long friendship and you need to go through that cycle again, and that's okay. Like everyone's in different points of their life. So, yeah. People can have different interests without sacrificing your friendships. Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely you can. And again, it's like you can choose to lone wolf it, but you're sacrificing a whole lot of other things, right? And that's not just the emotional things, right? That's also the practical things that come with friendship. So, I don't know. So, yeah. I'm getting caught up on chat. I agree. For me, how I view it is like having friendships, like the fact that we're all different and doing our own thing is one of the coolest things for sure. You found that the moment you have to question a friendship, it's really in bad shape. I'm sorry to hear that, Cube. I hope that, you know, I hope that is able to be resolved soon. It's not, I've definitely been in that situation before. And it's not a good feeling. So I hope that, you know, it gets resolved. It's not a good feeling for sure. Sorry to hear that. On a societal level, I've observed that a lot of people aren't equipped to work out those downs, so they instead default to cutting the connection off. Absolutely, Mark Hurian. I think a lot of, and I've talked to some folks about this, just like in the professional space, in any industry, like technical skills are very important to have, but a lot of people forget the importance of soft skills as well, because I'm making this tangent. I'm gonna get to somewhere, trust me. I feel like, you know, people focus so much on like learning a skill or being the best at something that we forget that at the end of the day, a bunch of people have that same exact technical skill. And how people tend to like choose one person out of the many people who have the same skill set as you, it's soft skills, like, you know, how well do they get along in a team, right? How well do they manage conflict? You know, are they a team player? That sort of thing, right? And I feel like that's a similar thing, and you know, because I feel like in a very like, I don't know, in a society where a lot of us think about work, right? I feel like that kind of bled into how we sort of like, and into other parts of life, like socializing. And I feel like maybe we've lost a lot of like, how do we teach people to socialize and get along with people and live in a community, right? I don't know. And it's like, how do we learn or relearn those things? That's a question I don't know. I'd love to like explore. Because like I said, it's in any industry, including like the industries that I associate with. And that's not like tea or shade, but that's the reality of it, right? But I don't know. I think it benefits folks to, you know, learn conflict management, learn how to resolve conflict, right? Be in opposition with people, and that's okay. You know, being in opposition with someone doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna become enemies, right? You know, being able to disagree with someone, but come out of it, you know, maybe not necessarily friends, but like being able to come out of it respectfully, you know? And again, I can't wax poetic about how that came to be or how we can fix it, but I've definitely noticed that as well. People choosing to default straight to cutting off things that are difficult. You honestly have no soft skills at all. You mean like teamwork or like conflict management? Because I think a lot of people think like if they're bad at soft skills that it's like an inherent like, oh, I'm just bad, you know, like I'm a bad person or bad at talking. But like any other skill, you can learn it. And I think a lot of people feel ashamed about like maybe they learn how to socialize well later on in life. But again, it's like similar to people who have different technical skills, right? Like maybe you went to a high school that like specialized in something, or maybe you didn't. You're learning, you know, at a higher level, quote unquote, later on in life. But you know, you'll learn those skills eventually. I don't think there's any like, I don't think it's ever too late to like, ouch, ouchies. I just picked a hangnail. Now my fingy is bleeding a little bit. Sorry. Content warning. A little tiny bit of bleeding. I'm gonna get a tissue, sorry. I didn't have any paper on my desk to use as a fidget toy. So I guess I subconsciously found a piece of skin on my finger. It's okay, it's not, I just need to, I'm good. It's just a tiny bit, it's bothering me now, so I'm gonna get a tissue. Get a tissue before it gets messed on my hand. Ugh. I'm good. Okay, let me get back here on camera. I'll get a Band-Aid later, it's not serious. She needs to breathe a little bit too. It's okay. Let's see. You mean like socializing? You struggle with that kind of stuff because of your autism? And I think that's... like I said, I feel like everyone has like different experiences and different cards that they were dealt, right? And I don't think there's any shame in like, I don't know, having more difficulty on things than other people, right? Because it's like, I don't know, it's the same thing with technical skills, right? I don't think there's any shame in like having more of a difficult time figuring things out or having to do things in a different way just so that you can, you know, do things that, I don't know, that you want to do, right? I don't think there's any shame in that. I mean, obviously it sucks because maybe it's difficult to do certain things that for other people maybe come a bit more naturally or easier, right? But I don't think that's any sort of fault. Yeah. My audio is cutting out. Oh my gosh. Goodness gracious. Oh, testing. Is that better? Was it like that before? I could try to fix that. Let me see here. Let me take a quick tangent. I told myself I was gonna keep this short because I needed to record something. Okay. We'll wrap up soon. This time, for realsies, pinky promise, okay? Tangenting. Oh, like, okay, let me try to fix that. Hello? Is it cutting out again still? Perhaps, maybe? Maybe I moved my microphone and now I'm like... There you go. That might be our fault. No, it's literally my fault as well. But again, not a bad fault. So, there you go. We all have different cards, but we're not playing cards. We're making houses out of them. Absolutely, yeah. For sure. But yeah, I don't know. It's like everyone's gonna have a certain level of like finding things easy or hard to do, and you just gotta find what works for you, you know, for you to be able to do things that you want to do. Sounds fine at the moment. Okay, I'll let me know if it doesn't. Appreciate it. But yeah, I don't know. Because to share an anecdote, I guess, for myself, being an ADHDer, there's a lot of things that I have to do that other people don't need to do in order to do the same exact things. And at first I was like, man, this sucks, right? But it's like, I think about it and like there's a lot of things that other people have to do, you know, because they struggle with other things. And of course, you know, there's the aspect of it where like there's societal pressures and stigma that make it even more difficult, or things that I have to do to make things easier or to do things the same way as other people are more stigmatized than other things that people have to do differently in order to make things easier for themselves. Of course, that exists, and, there are things we can do to start, normalizing it and things like that, but yeah, at the end of the day, you shouldn't be ashamed for how your brain works. Yeah. Oh yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. If it's not, if it's cutting out for a lot of people, that might be a me thing. But I'm not seeing anything on my end about that. There's a couple of things I'm checking. Fellow says, I think because of social media, it's become easier to see others succeed in the same field, and as a result, people get demoralized if they feel they're not progressing at the same rate. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we had this conversation earlier. I absolutely agree with that. I think, like, people tend to post on social media, what is the mainstream definition of success or happiness. You know what I mean? Like, for some people, happiness is just, like, being able to, like, live their simple life. And if that's your thing, then that's your thing, right? Like, but like, that's not, it could be something that you post on social media. Just start a trend where you just post your day-to-day life. I don't know, but like, I don't know. It's always so easy to forget that like social media is a very curated experience. Yeah. Yeah, because I was talking to one of my friends and she was like, it feels sad because like, everyone's posting all this, but all I have to post every single day is the same wall. You know what I mean? And it's like, gosh, it's just a curated feed of everyone's best moments. And if you're constantly comparing your life, which is, good and bad moments, to a curated feed of someone's life with just only the best moments, then it's like, it's kind of unfair. It's an unfair matchup, But yeah. I don't know. The overall sort of vibe of the weekend, right? The weekend's conversations was that, like, you have to find peace with your life direction and understand that your life is different and your goals are different. And you're gonna make decisions that are different from other people. And as long as, like, as long as they're your own, Because I can't even say, like, as long as you're making the right decision. At the end of the day, like, we're also people who make mistakes and learn. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. One thing that Beef was saying was, like, which is crazy because, like, I don't know. I'm really happy that, like, Beef was the one who started this conversation. Because I feel like Beef has had again, I'm not going to air too much detail out. But, like, I feel like Beef has had, like, recently a sort of metamorphosis into, like, becoming a lot more satisfied with, like, life satisfaction. A more recent journey of life satisfaction. It's nice. It's nice seeing that. Like, I loved seeing her kind of go from, like, oh, gosh, I don't really know what I'm doing, what the next thing is. I don't really have a direction. And being like, okay, you know what? I figured out what my direction is going to be. I figured out what I want to do, and it's really nice. Yeah, and then so she was saying, like, when someone cuts you off on the road, you could like, yell and be angry the entire way and cause a ruckus, or you could just be like, thankful that there wasn't an accident. Everyone's kind of, like, learning, like, maybe, like, hopefully they're learning how to be better, things like that. There's, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but I don't know. Life satisfaction and friendship. And it kind of just reminded me of JRPGs because I'm a gamer. And I was playing a lot of Honkai Star Rail this week. Yeah. Yeah, I think we're going to be towards the end of stream because I'm hungry and I need to record too. And then I got to get caught up on idle side jobs, so... I would yap about this even more, but... Yeah... Thanks for doing this for sure. And honestly, just talking about it with people is a really good way to, like, I don't know, for it to help that feeling. Honestly, like, talking to my friends about stuff that's been worrying me, or, like, something that I know logically is like the case, but, again, irrational thoughts, those comparisons and things like that coming back to bite you unexpectedly, whatever, like all that kind of stuff. It's nice being able to like talk it out, right? With friends, with a community, with whatever, right? It just feels, and again, it's like you don't need to have external validation, but because that's the thing, right? Because like, another tangent before I go, I'm a firm believer in like, talking about things, whatever, things that you're worried about, whatever. But people look at that and think like, you have to rely on yourself. You can't be dependent on external validation. And to a degree, I agree with that, right? It's like you need to be able to have your own sort of resilience, right? Be able to have your own little toolkit for your mental health, right? And be able to lift yourself up out of, tough situations on your own. But you can't always do that, right? And what people think of like, oh, that's external validation. You can't rely on like the outside world to like validate your life experience. I don't know if there's things that like I don't know. It's like if you're constantly surrounding yourself in an environment where it's like, negative thinking, then having conversation with someone who isn't stuck in that like negative thinking loop to validate your thinking is important, right? Like, because we live in a world, right? And we learn our values and our beliefs from people who raise us and people we surround ourselves by. So I think to a degree, having that level of like validation of like, hey, you know what? You're doing the right thing. Or hey, you're not doing the right thing. You know what I mean? Is important. There's obviously a balance, but being able to talk to someone and think like, hey, I'm worried about this. Do you think I'm doing the right thing? Especially if they like know who you are, like they know what you're about, have the best interests at heart for you, right? Then, I don't know. Then it's fine. Because it's like, on a community level where people kind of don't know you super well, and that's fine, right? To be in a community where people don't really know you to that level. It's fine for like general advice, right? Like, hey, what? But when it comes to deeper things, it's important to have a level deeper, right? To, I don't know, like a confidant who knows more about your personal details, who can steer you more towards the right direction, who, I don't know, because it's like you can get advice from a community, but, it might be 50-50, or they may not know the entire story, so they can't give good advice, that sort of thing. I don't know. That's also why it's important to have different kinds of relationships. Yeah. Like you don't need to have a romantic partner. But if you want one, if you feel like that's what you need in your life, not just because that's what society is telling you, then go for it, right? Or if you need more of like a community, and that's what you want, and that's, that's not just society telling you need to go join like a gym class, then do it. Everyone's different. That is okay. That is okay. It was a good talk to get things off our chests a little bit. Exactly. No, absolutely. And for anyone who's like going through a rough patch, just know we're all human. It's okay. Everyone's in their own path. Everyone is in different stages of learning lessons and living their life. Yeah. I don't know. I think you're doing I think you're doing your best, and that's what you could ever really ask for. Right? And even if technically you're quote unquote not, and you just need a rest, and you'll get there. You'll get there. Yeah. I appreciate you. Thank you. I appreciate you all too. You know that? Wherever you are in your journey, I'm rooting for you. Yeah. You have a very positive outlook on life, and it helps a lot. Tend to be a negative person, but hearing your perspective is quite nice and makes me think. I'm glad because, I would like to think I'm a rather positive person, but I also have moments where I'm like, gosh, am I doing the right thing? Gosh, am I making the right choices? Because I'm human, and to be human is to err, right? But yeah, like talking things out, working on things. That's all you could ever really do is try to be, I don't know. Try to work on yourself, I guess. I like hearing you talk about these things because we get a reminder that we all face similar struggles, so it's nice to know we're not alone even if our paths are different. Oh, absolutely. And I feel like a lot of the times I have conversations like these, and like whether it's a stream or an event, or like if I'm just talking with people, you know, I know it takes a lot of like vulnerability to be able to talk about, you know, your thoughts and where you are and your mindset. And I appreciate, you know, that you all are very open-minded and very respectful for one another. Yeah, because not everyone is in like the part of their life that they want to be in. And you know, we get stories from all right, I hope that we have stories from different walks of life and people in different spots in their life, and yeah, it can be hard to talk about some of those things. So I appreciate you all. Yeah. Wherever you are in your life. We're all human at the end of the day, and I would like to hope that we try to get better. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, aren't we all human? Stares at chat. Oh, there might be a bot or two in there. I don't know, but yeah. Oh, okay. There's somebody asked an off-topic question. So this is good because now I can't tangent anymore. Well, there's less likely of a chance for me to continue tangenting and extending. I'm getting kind of hungry. But is Persona gonna be for members only forever or only the non-main story parts? Probably. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Truth be told, we'll see how it plays out. Yeah. It could be that, you know, members only for non-main story parts and I just do like the palaces and stuff. I don't know, because then it's like you miss a lot of like the in-between context and things like that. I don't know. I might do like members and then like I'll cut up videos so you all can see the main parts. I don't know. It's just a long series, so being able to like take my time a bit and not have to worry too much about like I have to stream it all the time, you know? What I mean, it's like I can squeeze it in where I can squeeze it in. That's that sort of dealio. So, the short answer is, I don't know. Long answer is what I just said. Pho for dinner? I can't decide if I want to eat my leftover chicken and rice or if I'm gonna get like, if I'm gonna make myself a new meal. Probably. Well, the thing is, I'm thinking maybe leftovers could be for lunch tomorrow. And then I could make something fresh as a reward for recording. You're way too cool. Thank you. I'm just a girl in the world, on the internet. I appreciate it. I really do. Oh my gosh. When whimsical aura exists, literally, it's like we're all living our own life. Just do your best. It's okay. You know? That's the truth of whimsy, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, patient. I really am. But I think for me, it's like, I don't want to feel too stressed out about making like a weekly or bi-weekly thing. So I'm like, I'll just do it whenever I have time for it. I could try to make, you know, like edited video content, but whatever. Whatever, you gotta do what you gotta do. Although, I might do video essays if I have time to, you know, make, because there's definitely a lot of things in Persona that have made me think about things. I want to talk about them. Like, I think there was a lot off of like Futaba's story, our most recent one that we did. So I don't know, we'll see. But I'm hungry, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up stream so I can get to recording after I eat. But yeah, I'll see you all later. I'll see you all on Friday for Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I said I was gonna try to post stuff over the weekend, but I ended up just being too cozy with the girls, so I ended up not editing the videos I wanted to edit. So I apologize, but yeah, those will kind of just be like whenever I get the chance to do them. Yeah. And sorry for those who missed the time period for the whatchamacallit, the dancing stream, or I guess not stream, but the dance video. You got to dance. If you worked out alongside me, let me know. You all were working out together, or I guess watching together. Yeah, I have to check the copyright stuff on that one, but may or may not be able to make that members only. We'll see. I'll look into it. But thank you all so much. And I think I posted on Twitter, but I didn't put it on YouTube. Gah. To err is to be human. But we'll see. Oh, grr. Silly goober that I am. But I'll look into it. Trust and believe. But yeah. And I will see you all later. Bye! Okay, on the YouTube side, we're gonna raid into Leah. She's doing internet horror stories, and I love horror. Which is odd, because I do scare easily, but I love horror that, like, makes you think, you know? That's like a puzzle. I don't really do well with, like, gore, truth be told, but I love horror with a mystery. So I guess maybe I like mystery instead, but, like, I like ghost stories, things like that, but yeah, I can't really do gore and stuff, but internet horror stories sounds interesting. And then on the Twitch side, we're gonna raid into Corey. I remember being a part of one of her concerts' opening songs. I sang with a bunch of other folks. We'll go ahead and raid into her, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye. I'm hungry.